this is, yeah, you don't know. This is a special moment for me.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here with Nico Floresta. All right, Nico, what year is this Mustang?
So it's a 2020 Mustang GT 50 base model. I cheated this time around and I bought this car built as it is right now from that company MMR. It's Modular Motorsports Racing up in Camarillo, California. So they took a 2020 base model and they basically put a lot of GT350 parts on it. So if you want to kind of think of this in simple terms, it's like a Grand Sport Corvette kind of deal. They put the transmission, the diff, the wheels, the brakes, the front geometry, all that stuff from the GT350, and then slapped on some MCS two-ways, gutted the interior, and that's pretty much the majority of the build.
How did you get into cars, and then how did you get into tracking?
So I don't really know how I got into cars. I think, you know, growing up, I just randomly kind of, I want to think my cousin maybe was like watching, he was kind of into anime and kind of introduced me to Initial D. I'm actually like not a speed freak. I don't really like consider myself like a person that likes to take a lot of risks. I'm like cautious by nature, so that's why I think everybody's surprised that I'm into this hobby. Got my first sports car in high school was an SW21 MR2 because of Initial D. And I actually ended up totaling that car with the infamous, snap oversteer, lift-off oversteer characteristics that thing has. And that was the point where I realized, I was a kid back then, thought I knew what I was doing, and I realized I had no idea what I was doing. So luckily, I was able to get a second SW21, and from there, I started doing some autocross with that car, and slowly kind of started my path. Of course, in college and stuff, funds were limited, so it was not something that I could do on the regular. But that kind of got me started. Many cars later, I'm one of those that's had a lot of cars. I can go through them if you want, but eventually I landed on that car, which is 2007 350Z Nismo. And that car was the one that I would say got me more serious into tracking. Before then, I would do the odd, track day, but I would never even time myself. It was just to go out there and have fun. That's the car that kind of got me to start doing things seriously. I competed in Nissan Challenge with that car, which was the first time doing any kind of competitive driving. This car came up. It was a good deal. I was already kind of reaching a limit on the Z where I didn't want to kind of get the chainsaw or the reciprocal saw or whatever. I didn't want to start cutting it up to get more speed out of it. So when this car came up, I just jumped on it. I never thought I would have a Mustang, to be honest with you. It was never a car that, I've always liked them, but it was never a car that I thought I would get. But that's how life is. It's one of those things I learned. I always say never or whatever, and you end up doing those things that you'd think you never would do.
What do you think is a better choice for the purpose of tracking?
For the purpose of tracking, I think that, the Z is a great platform to start. It doesn't take a lot to get it ready for the track. You got to address some cooling stuff, which, honestly, you have to do with almost every car. But it's a car that has a good amount of power, where it's an interesting amount of power that you can get yourself into some trouble with it, but it's not an overwhelming amount of power by any means. So in that respect, I think it's a more approachable car. When you set them up, they're fast. That car was doing 56, at Buttonwillow. and it can, you know, and there's plenty of Z guys that are even faster than that. So it's in my heart, I think I'll always kind of be a Z guy because of that car. But you know, the reality is this car here, the ceiling is higher.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it's hard to compete with the extra grunt, you know, the extra power, the grip from the you know, the wheels. You can fit much larger rubber on this thing. It's got the weight disadvantage, but even then, I mean, I can tell this car is probably going to be a significant jump in performance from the Z. But I think to start, I would definitely say a Z, maybe not a Nismo. I was kind of, you know, when I bought that car, I was like, oh, it has everything I'm gonna need done to it already. I'm not gonna do anything to it, you know? And of course, that's complete BS. I had to change everything out. So I would recommend just starting with a base model Z, because you're gonna have to start changing things out anyways. So, and then you won't feel as guilty.
So, Nico, what's been done to the Mustang exactly?
So the powertrain is bone stock. I mean, even down to the cats. Still running the cats, stock tune, stock intake, stock everything. It does have a catback exhaust on it that I need to address because I don't like the fitment on it. But the powertrain is bone stock. Like I mentioned, it does have a lot of GT350 parts on it. So the wheels are the stock GT350 19 by 10.5 and 19 by 11 rears.
Oh, is that stock? 10.5? Wow.
Yeah, 10.5 front, 11 rear.
Okay.
I have just 305 with 305 3019 all around F13Rs on it at the moment. Eventually, I am going to go with just a square 19 by 11 forged because they're pretty heavy. But for now, while I get used to the car, it's more than good enough. So they put the front geometry off a GT350. I didn't know this, but it's actually different from the standard Mustang. It's got double ball joints. So truthfully, I'm getting to know the platform. Like I said, it's not a platform that I'm really familiar with, but I didn't know that about the Shelbys. I thought it was pretty cool. It's got the standard Shelby brakes, the Brembo brakes, which are massive. It's running G-Lock pads right now, R18 and R12 in the back. These rotors are kind of, to be honest with you, but I have a spare set, so when these pads wear out, I'll be switching to CSG pads, which are the pads that I've kind of grown to love. And what else? Apparently, it's got these extended wheel lug nuts from the GT350R.
Oh,
so
okay.
everybody seems to make a point of telling me that.
And then the rotors are two-piece.
It's a two-piece, but you have to replace it
Completely. Right.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of two-piece that's not really a two-piece.
Right.
I mean,
it's a factory two-piece.
It's a factory two-piece.
Where it's not bolted, but it's pressed on.
Yeah. So you have to replace the whole thing. Okay. Let's see. So it's got these the vents from Veris. Veris Engineering. Yeah. I'm a track spec guy, so that's like the only vents I know. But yeah, these are Veris Engineering vents. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it from the front. I mean it's got all around it MCS two-way coilovers.
Do you know the spring rates?
It's 700 and 900 in the rear.
Okay.
Yeah, or 770 and 900 in the rear, something like that.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Is the front suspension McPherson on these cars? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
McPherson. And then the rear is obviously independent rear.
It's
right?
independent rear, but with the bucket style. It's got true coils on it now, but stock it would be the bucket style. Spring. So actually, the rear is similar to the Z.
Right.
But yeah, McPherson, not double wishbone. So, surprisingly, I've noticed this car is actually better on tire wear than the Z was, which I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not double wishbone, unfortunately, in the front.
And you're running Goodyear.
Goodyear F1 3Rs, yeah, 305 section width, all around.
Okay.
I could fit wider in the back, but I kind of like square over staggered. But yeah, that's the limit I could fit in the front. So Mikey at TPM, a lot of you guys probably know him, helped me out with these tires. It does have the MMR grip kit, little plug for the MMR guys that built this car. So it's got a lot of their suspension arms, so it's kind of comparable to SPL, you know. So I actually don't have any SPL parts on this car. It's all from MMR, so their end links, their toe arms, camber arms.
All aluminum?
Yeah, all aluminum, spherical.
Nice. How much does the car weigh, and what's the horsepower?
So this car was weighed at 3650 without driver. But since then, I haven't weighed it yet, but I've actually added a little bit of stuff to it just to make it a little more drivable on the street.
Right.
I actually drive the car to the track, so just little things like, for example, the windshield wipers were not on the car. The armrest console wasn't in there. It didn't have a passenger seat. That's probably the biggest thing. The interior fan for the air
blower motor.
Yeah, the blower motor wasn't on there, so I put that in there. Doesn't have AC, but I wanted to at least be able to blow some air in my face. So I probably added, unfortunately, I'd say around 50 pounds back. So I'd imagine it's probably around 3,700 pounds right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the power-wise?
Power-wise, it's just stock power. This got the Gen 3 Coyote engine, so they're rated at 460 at the crank. I hear that. I haven't put it on a dyno yet, but I hear they're usually around 390 to 400 to the wheels.
Gotcha.
And the torque at the crank was, I think, 420 pound-feet of torque. So it's got plenty of power as is. Eventually, I'll probably start, adding some bolt-on power mods. But as it is, it's plenty to get me going at the moment.
Okay. Hey, watch out for the eagles. They're gonna fly out. So
yeah, like I said, stock. Sorry, some spider webs in here. Stock engine. They deleted the AC and heater, but other than that, really, it's pretty stock.
Let me ask you real quick. So they deleted the entire heater?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got no heater, no AC.
No heater, no AC.
So you just basically have the blower motor to blow whatever air is outside.
Air. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna probably end up getting a cool suit.
Yeah.
And honestly, more just for the drive. I think I'll be using it on the drives to and from because, as you know, you did, thank you for doing the drive down here, but as you know, I'm pretty far south in San Diego, so it's usually at least 3 to 4 hour drive anywhere for me. So especially when it gets warm out, it was pretty brutal on my last drive down. Without the AC. Yeah. Heater I don't really care about, but yeah. Yeah, you can see the MCS external reservoirs there. Okay. This is my first time with a suspension this sophisticated. So I came from a one-way, so I'm kind of getting to know the nuances of setting up, starting to learn that on the suspension. But it's pretty amazing what these things can do. It's actually what I find crazy about them is just how comfortable they are. It's not a harsh ride at all. But then when you get to the track and you can just run over berms and that's where it's really pretty impressive. Anti-gravity battery.
Okay.
For some weight.
Wow, it's a really small one.
A really small one.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually been kind of giving me some little gremlins recently, so I think I'm gonna probably need to replace it with a new one. Not sure how old that one is. But yeah, I was gonna put a normal battery, but when I felt how light it was, I was like, no, I can't go back. I can't go back. So it's got a set trap 34 oil row or 34 row oil cooler, track spec radiator, a couple MMR, more MMR pieces like their oil filter relocation kit. I guess on these guys, the filter is in a pretty shitty area to replace, so they moved it out in front of the wheel. And then, well, just to finish off on their coolers, it's got a diff cooler from them as well.
Nice.
Yeah, which is nice.
What about the fans? Stock fans on the
stock
radiator?
fans, yeah. Okay. Yeah, stock fans.
So it doesn't need crazy amounts of,
yeah, so I've been, yeah, I went, you know, I've done 3 events with this in the summer. And it held up fine. I mean, the water temps were fine, and even the oil temps were pretty good. I mean, I come from in my Z. I would, you know, with all the cars, for me, it's always been the oil temps that are the limiting
on
factor.
the Z's, right?
Yeah. So I'm like constantly kind of used to looking at the oil temp gauge. You know, it's like one of those, like I'm driving, I'm just like always looking at that, and this one it did pretty well. It actually had a smaller oil cooler. It had a 25 row when I got it, and I swapped in my 34 that I had from my Z. So I think it'll be even better next time I go out.
Okay. What about the drivetrain, transmission, diff?
Yeah, so drivetrain is from the GT350. So it's got the Tremec 6-speed from the GT350. It's actually really nice, really nice transmission. You know, in the reviews, I've always, you know, the car reviews always kind of harp about the GT350's transmission being far better than the stock Mustangs.
Yeah, let me ask you real quick. I don't know too much about the Mustangs, but I heard that the stock GT transmission, the manual one, is not so great.
It's not so great.
Okay, is that because it's weak or the
gearing?
Yeah,
I think, no, I think it's mostly like kind of just weak.
Okay.
Yeah. Gearing, this one's got I think it's a 3.7 final drive on it. It's long gears, but it's got good enough, you know, enough power that I don't mind it.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just the hardiness of the transmission, and then just the feel and everything. I heard the stock GTs is kind of, I don't know, like kind of like those kind of rubbery, plasticky kind of feel.
No precision.
Yeah, this one's actually really good. I think it's actually a little nicer than the Z's, and kind of maybe not as good, but pretty similar in the vibe it gives me to the S2000s. You know, like that nice direct tight shift. And yeah, and so it does have also the GT350's diff on it.
Okay.
Which is good, but it is a Torsen diff. And I've already started to kind of.
It's kiking.
Yeah. So I came from the Nismo GT, you know, 1.5 way true clutch type diff, and the Z, which was magic. And so this one, I immediately noticed like over Phil Hill and stuff like that at Buttonwillow, that it just kind of felt weird. So. That might be something that I do change out in the future. I'm one of those guys that I don't like to mod, even though this car is pretty heavily modded as is. I don't like to add mods until I feel that I'm at the, you know, at close to, or as much as I can say that I'm at a cliff with, or at a wall with the mods I have. So it was the same thing with the Z, and I'm gonna kind of do the same thing with this car. So right now it's just about getting to know it. But yeah, the diff is already one of those things that it's good. It's not bad, but it could be better. It's got the, you know, the Sparco Evo buckets, Halo for me, and I just picked up this passenger one. just because I wanted one, even though nobody's actually been in it yet. Nobody wants to go out with me yet. It's got a welded half cage in right now. This was one of the things that this was one of the main reasons that I decided to move from the Z. I didn't want to weld a cage in the Z, but I was getting to the speeds where I knew that it was kind of irresponsible to be out there doing that without a cage and some more proper safety equipment. So that was actually one of the big reasons that I decided to move into this. But yeah, so it's got the rears completely gutted, as you can see. But yeah, everything else. Oh, it's got the Sparco quick release steering wheel, which is my first time with one of these steering wheels, believe it or not. I was always driving with my OEM big heavy steering wheel that everybody always gave me crap about. But yeah, pretty basic interior. What's nice, I guess I'll point it out, that I didn't know, they put the GT350's gauges. So I guess what it gives me is oil pressure and oil temp. Nice. And I guess on the regular Mustang GTs, they get, instead of an oil temp, they get a very useful vacuum.
Something that always moves around.
Yeah, nice, a fun vacuum gauge. So yeah, that was one thing I didn't realize, that getting to know a lot of the Mustang guys now, they were like, oh, it's nice that you have that. And it is nice because, like I mentioned before, it's one of those things that I like to keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. And then I guess we could go to the trunk. Not much going on here, but it does have the reservoirs, the external reservoirs mounted in the trunk here, which is pretty nice.
Nice.
That wiring all kind of goes into the diff cooler.
Oh yeah, I see the wiring going down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just runs on its own, pretty much.
Gonna show that.
Yeah, and here you can see it's got this MBRP catback exhaust, but it sounds nice, but I think it doesn't route around the diff very well, so it's kind of sagging a lot.
Okay.
I've been actually bottoming it out quite a bit, which is annoying because coming from the Z when I had aero, I was always dealing with the splitter, and I thought I wouldn't have to deal with any scraping on this car, but it turns out that I'm still dealing with it. So that I'll take care of. But yeah.
Okay. And I just want to show the cooler real quick.
Yeah, there's
the cooler with
cooler,
the fan.
Going into the diff that has also an MMR casing on it.
Okay, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So all billet aluminum looks like. Okay, and a temperature probe. Nice, well done. And then looks like I see sway bar. Is that GT350 too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the sway bars. Yeah.
That's their color, right? The Ford
that's
Racing.
Their performance. Yeah. The Ford Racing performance.
That's neat. Okay. So GT.
Yep, GT. Yeah, eventually I will go aero eventually. Okay. But I'm trying to see, how fast I can get without it.
Right. That brings us to a really important question.
Lap times?
Yeah, lap time. So you've only driven it 3 times.
3 times, yep. 2 at Button Willow, 1 at Big Willow. So if you could come to the front, a lot of my Instagram pictures, you'll notice there was a sub 2 sticker that came on this car. That's not on it anymore. The first time I went to Button Willow, I was a bit cocky. Coming from my Z, I was doing sub 2s, in my sleep. So I thought this thing's gonna sub 2 easily. I went with SoCal Drivers Club for a shakedown day. My buddy Christopher Anderson, I don't know if you know him, he made it very clear to me that the sticker is something that I have to earn, not the car. So he's like, if you don't get the sub 2, you're gonna have to take the sticker off. So yeah, I went there totally unprepared. I didn't align the car. I had some takeoff Toyo RRs, you know, wide to me from my world, but I guess undersized for this car. They were 295. What did I do? You know, this was a mistake. Like, why did I get this car? You know, it was, yeah, I was second guessing everything that I had done with the car. I went to ChewWorks, got myself in alignment, noticed that I was running like half a degree negative camber in the back, which explained why the car was so nervous. It did kind of remind me that you know, getting a sub 2 is not that easy. So anyways, went back to Button Willow and I did a 56.1. Yeah. So which was also slightly better than the Z's 56.4. So that's the kind of funny story about why this car no longer has a sub 2 sticker. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. All right.
Welcome back to the club. What things about life do you learn through these cars?
Ooh, patience when you're wrenching and you want to just burn everything to the ground because, you know, some engineer decided to put a nut in a little crevice that has no business being there. Yeah, you learn hard work. I mean, doing these things takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and it teaches me to enjoy life. You know, to find something that you enjoy. I'm super grateful that, like we talked about earlier, I don't even know how I got into cars, but I'm super glad I did. I've met a ton of great people through it to chase, and so, like, you know, something as simple as a sub 2, you know, as a time, but it's a nice specific goal to chase.
Is there any last thing you want to say, Nico?
Well, I want to thank you, Peter, for taking the time and driving all the way down here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's really like an honor to even be doing this. It's just kind of, it's weird to say, but, you know, a few years ago, I would see the people that could do sub 2 and everything, and like it was, you know, like everybody was, they were on the pedestal.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was chasing that for a long time. So I think once you're there, once you've been doing this for a while, you kind of forget that. You forget that those kind of old times that where everything was new and everything was, you know, was just kind of intimidating and crazy. I was talking to my friend Chris about this earlier in the year. How when you get into the competition mode and once you're kind of like a bit faster, you kind of forget about that kind of novelty. And so I'd say to the viewers out there, to the ones that aren't in the sub 2 club, just enjoy it, enjoy that time to get there. Just the work and the progress to get there is really half the thing. And then to us in it, don't forget like that this is supposed to be fun, especially us that are competing all the time. We kind of forget that, like sometimes if you don't PB and, you know, you go out there and you get like a 57 instead of a 56, you're disappointed. Just remember, you know, your old self, what that 57 would have meant to you. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, thank you again. Yeah. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to do this with you. Hopefully I didn't botch it too bad, but
You did great, and thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, so this is my 07 350Z Nismo, regrettably on sale.
So if anyone's looking for Nismo Z
Yeah,
in manual, how many miles are on this thing?
it's got 127,000 miles on it. Yeah.
Oh, and of course I put it on crooked. Still crooked. There we go. Ah,
Yeah.
it's as good as I'm gonna get it, unfortunately. Of course I screwed up the corner. That was the hardest thing I've ever done.